can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering Paranormal.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? This phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cryptid Campfire. Today, I am joined by Jasmine Maywith, and we are talking to a very special person today, filmmaker, investigator, Sean Whitley.
I wouldn't go so good. I wouldn't go so far as calling me an investigator.
Yeah.
Lover of the strange and weird. I think that's, a good way to describe me.
So, an enthusiast,
Thank
shall
you.
we say?
Perfect.
Okay. I think, at least in this field, perhaps the biggest thing you're known for is your 2007 film, Southern Fried Bigfoot, which is pretty darn good, I have to say.
Thank you.
I would say so too. I watched it today for the first time as well. It's available on Amazon, so I went ahead and clicked that, and it was pretty good quality for a lot of cryptid sort of documentaries that are out there. This one was pretty good.
Thanks. It was really made with spit tape and a prayer. Really made with next to no budget, and I'm shocked it came together. Took a long time, a lot longer than I thought, but it was a labor of love.
And I think it still holds up too. Like, even though it's from 2007, that long ago, so it has kind of that nostalgic sort of vibe to like the video and the graphics and everything like that. The format of it and all of the content still holds up.
Oh, thanks. I'm still shocked. I still get asked about it. I mean, it played at a film festival last month. Oh, there's my dog. And just recently had a professor from the UK that's doing a study about Bigfoot in the US who contacted me, saw it and said, I want to interview you. And I'm like, well, I'm not a primatologist. I'm not a Bigfoot researcher. I'm just some guy who made this no budget documentary. He's like, no, it really spoke to me. I want to include you in this study. I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Very
So
cool.
go figure. I'm shocked and touched.
Yeah, I think what separates it and distinguishes it from most Bigfoot documentaries is the fact that it's focused on a different region of the United States than is typically associated with Bigfoot, right? Everyone thinks Pacific Northwest, but this focuses on the South, the rural South. And I was blown away the first time I watched it because I was like, he's going to talk about like one thing, the skunk ape. And that's not the case. There's so many different things happening down there. And I just got to ask, like, what kind of inspired you to make that film? What and why the focus of Southern Bigfoot?
A few reasons. One, I'd worked on other people's documentaries for a few years and gotten to the point where I got really frustrated how those projects turned out. Wanted to make my own. And of course, as you mentioned, I'm an enthusiast for the weird and the strange. I've had an interest in Bigfoot since I was a little kid, and all the stories that were in Southern Fried Bigfoot, I grew up with. I remember hearing stories in the news as a kid and being pretty scared of them, and in movies like The Legend of Boggy Creek. And at the time I first got the idea for this documentary, which was about 20 years ago, nobody was really doing anything with the subject of Bigfoot in the South. And I thought, well, this is an open door. There's not much going on with it. And I got the idea for the documentary, and I kid you not, about 2 or 3 weeks later in a local Dallas paper, there was an article about the first Texas Bigfoot conference coming up in a few weeks. Oh man, this is a sign. And I told myself, well, I'm going to go and check it out. And if it sounded like a legit subject, and I had an interest in it and read books and stuff and met people over the years, but I told myself, if it sounds like a legit subject, I'm going to pursue this as a documentary, whether it takes a year or two or whatever, and get it made. Went to the conference, and aside from one person who stood up and said, well, I know the government knows about these things and they're keeping it secret, everyone sounded pretty sane and sober-minded. I thought if you took the word Bigfoot out of it and replace it with a word like mountain gorilla, it wouldn't sound so strange. So I thought, yeah, this is definitely worthy a subject of delving into. And of course, I was inspired by these old movies like The Legend of Boggy Creek and the Mysterious Monsters, movies I'd grown up with as a kid, and wanted to do a modern version of it.
Let me take this opportunity to thank y'all for watching Cryptid Campfire.
and ask that if you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now. Like this video and click on the bell so you can be notified each time a new video goes up. And now, back to the show.
You interview some pretty big names in there, at least in terms of the Bigfooting world. Craig Woolheater. I know you mentioned a film festival last month, which was his, right? The Texas
Correct.
Bigfoot Film Festival. How was that?
It was great. It was interesting it was kind of like a guy's weekend, it turned out. All of the presenters that showed up for various reasons, our partners, wives, spouses couldn't go. So the majority of us were at an old bread and what do you call it? A historic bed and breakfast. Ed Sanchez, who made co-writer, co-director of the Blair Witch Project, was there. I had not seen him in about 9 years. So it was fun to talk to him and get caught up with him. And I felt really bad for the lovely elderly couple that ran the B&B, because I have the feeling they probably thought, who are these lunatics in our kitchen? Because we were talking about obscure Italian cannibal movies like Cannibal Holocaust and Bigfoot films, things that scare us as children. And I thought these poor people are probably thinking, call the cops. These guys are lunatics. But the festival was nice. You had a lot of really hardcore Bigfoot movie fans there. And, you know, people were coming up like, can I shake your hand? Will you sign this for me? And just, I mean, I'm talking hardcore people that stayed through all 5 movies without leaving. So it was nice, a lot of camaraderie, and it's nice to see these hardcore monster movie fans out there, which I include myself as part of.
Mm.
And
Ooh, I have a
hanging out with
question.
cool people. Sure.
Yeah, I have a question for you, following up on the monster thing later, though.
Sure.
It's a question I ask all our guests. At least I'm supposed to. A couple. Yeah. But first of all, that sounds like a lot of fun. I am a little late to the party. I just found out about that film festival like 2 days ago, listening to Cliff and Bobo's podcast.
Okay.
And you know, I was like, oh man, when is this event? Oh, it was last month. Oh, great. So maybe I'll catch it this year. I'm not sure. But you know, you mentioned, see, you grew up in the South and you heard the stories of wood boogers and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Speaking of, I feel like I've never heard the term booger when it comes to a cryptid or a Bigfoot like creature. When I watched Southern Fried Bigfoot and I heard people saying booger this and booger that, I was like, what?
It's a common term in the South. I mean, I
Really?
as a kid hearing, "Ooh, you know, don't go outside at night, you know, the booger man will get you." Now, whether that's tied to the term booger in reference to Bigfoot or Wildman or whatever, I don't know. But that is a pretty common term down here that you hear. So I thought that was always interesting, these regional names you get. And that's one thing I wanted to hit upon in the documentary, which we did. There's so many different regional names. Some are really funny too. I like, let's do it. Let's go for it. Get it out there.
what do you call Coca-Cola?
I call it a Coke myself, but you know, it just depends on where you're at. I've got a lot of family from East Texas who have thick accents. I'm told I don't have an accent, so I don't know if it's a genetic thing or what, but go figure.
I don't know. You know, my dad's from Kentucky, so
Okay.
But he lost his accent after moving out to California. So
Okay, that'll do it.
yeah, but sometimes it comes through. You know, he says "pilla" instead of "pillow."
All right.
You're an enthusiast of the strange and the paranormal, but you work, it sounds like from conversations I've had with you so far, you work in the film industry.
Film and TV, I'd say.
Film and TV. How did that come about?
Well, it's something I've always had an interest in as well. I went to film school, got a degree. It's like 2 weeks after graduation, I started working in the oh-so entertaining field of corporate industrial training films. Did that for 10 years. And when I started, I had a full head of hair. And when I left, I had none like I have now.
Oh, God.
It's a lot. But during that time, I learned a lot. I learned how to work with no budgets, segued into documentaries and reality shows. And that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last, oh, good Lord. Again, I'm getting old, so my memory's going. Almost the last 20 plus years or so. So just segued into that, worked for a bunch of big networks, freelance and full time. It just depends on, you know, wherever the gig takes you. Gone all over the country. It's funny though, I've done a lot of travel all over the country, and sometimes that's allowed me to get close to places where say, famous cryptid stories or famous paranormal stories that happened. Was on a shoot for HGTV up in Wisconsin about 8 or 9 years ago. And I noticed one of my locations was 20 minutes away from Bray Road, the alleged the Bray Road Beast. So I'm like, I'm gonna go check it out. It was a Sunday evening. It was just me. My cameraman didn't want to go. And it was twilight. I was on Bray Road, surrounded by cornfields. There's no one out there. There's nothing but the wind, wind blowing through the corn stalks, which I gotta admit was kind of creepy at twilight. I didn't expect to see anything, and I didn't, but it was kind of neat to go out there and see it and take a picture of the road sign and things like that. And I've also done shoots in allegedly haunted houses around the country. Haven't had too many weird things happen. I've had the traditional, batteries fail on you that are fully charged. It's like that. Had a very strange incident once at a allegedly haunted place in Indiana where a very old baby doll from the 30s would laugh at me and the crew.
No.
Yeah, it was creepy. It was creepy. I've got a picture of it somewhere.
What do you mean it would laugh at you?
It's one of those dolls that when you pick up and move, it laughs. But this doll was laying on a bed. It wasn't moving, but it would do this creepy laugh. Now, of course, you have to, work through your head. Okay, could it be staged? Could someone, have a button they're pressing? Sure, we don't know, but it really creeped us out.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's one of those old 30s baby dolls that looks like no child should ever play with this thing because it looks like a prop from a horror movie. So it was creepy, but things like that. So I've been able to, explore other places and have fun. My life is kind of like a big Scooby-Doo episode, I guess. Or I watched too many Scooby-Doo cartoons as a kid. Like, hey, let's go check out that neat old graveyard in New Orleans, or Loch Ness, or wherever I'm close to.
Yeah. What are some of the favorite places you've traveled to in regards to the Fortean stuff, or in general, if you want?
Probably my favorite is New Orleans. I spent a lot of time there over the last 30 years or so. Got married there back in 2000 as well. Been to a lot of the graveyards there, taken a lot of haunted tours. I've been to the I've been to the historic Voodoo Museum several times, which is very neat and kind of spooky. It's not meant to be a spooky attraction. It's treats the subject with respect, but it's got some kind of, giant voodoo doll with a big alligator head and moss, and it's kind of spooky. It's kind of a dark building inside, and it's got a strange smell inside. So it's odd. It's neat. I mean, but it's definitely kind of it's not your traditional museum, I'd say.
Mm.
They used to have a big albino boa constrictor in there as well. It's been a few years since I've been on a lot of swamps in my time for Southern Fried Bigfoot and just for fun as well. Those are always cool. So I'd probably say in New Orleans, probably my favorite type of Forteanic or odd place I've been.
Yeah. I remember in October of 2020, I was down there in New Orleans, and I went inside a trinket shop and saw shrunken heads for the first time. It's just, you don't get that anywhere.
Really, it's a totally different city. My wife and I were there like Halloween weekend of 2003, and I don't know what possessed us, but we went into a quote unquote occult shop, and the girl at the counter saw me and walked over and said, "Oh, sir, I just want to let you know we're having a special on daggers tonight." Okay. Yeah, well, we were going to go to the Black Mass and we didn't have a hostess gift, so thank you. What do you do with that? But no, we did not go to a Black Mass. That's a joke.
Well, I want to ask about Loch Ness because you've also been there, right?
Yes, I have.
What was why did you go there? Was it for the Loch Ness monster? Was it for just a vacation? How many times have you gone, and what did you do while you were there?
I've only been to Loch Ness once. My wife and I took a trip of the UK almost 3 years ago. And we had several stops in Scotland. We had one day in Inverness, which is near Loch Ness. And she said, automatically, this is your place. Let's go do something Loch Ness monster related. So we booked a cruise on the loch. And the minute we got on this boat, it takes you down the Caledonian Canal and it meets the loch and you go into the loch. Every image of Scotland ever had, it's dark and it's rainy. This day it was gorgeous. The sun was out and the water was incredibly blue. We bought these two big Nessie chestnut ale beers that's got Nessie on the label. The minute the boat hit the loch, I grabbed her. We went over to the side of the boat. We said we had like a toast / prayer to Nessie. We're like, Nessie, if you're there, may God bless you and your kind. May you stay safe and wild and free forever. Clink the glasses. And I thought the beer would be like some cheap stuff they just sell at the tourists, but it was really good. Oh, so good. We toasted Nessie. Waters were gorgeous, but even on a sunny day, they're incredibly dark. And the waves are like roiling, even on a calm day. It's amazing how pitch dark those waters are. And you just imagine what could be under here. So it was really neat and really creepy. And we went to Urquhart Castle, the big famous castle that's on the loch as well. And I'd seen pictures of that probably since I was 4 years old. So it was just kind of wild to walk around there in those hills and overlooking the loch and actually be on the loch itself. It was gorgeous, and you could see snow-capped mountains in the distance, and it felt kind of otherworldly, I'd say.
Very cool. Now, do you have a stance on if Nessie exists, what kind of creature is she? Is she a flesh and blood animal that just has evaded being discovered? Is she something supernatural? Is she something else? Where do you stand on that?
Well, kind of where I stand with anything, even with Bigfoot, I just don't really know. My gut feeling says these things are animals of some sort. They seem to, you know, at least in the case of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, leave tracks, leave droppings, smell like animals, that sort of thing.
Right.
That's my gut feeling. I don't know. I mean, that's just I keep an open mind. I know plenty of people that say these things are shapeshifters or go to other dimensions. My gut feeling is, okay, if it acts like an animal, it's an animal.
Gotcha. Well, I've been having a lot of fun recently because we did a 3-part Nessie series in our last sort of season of this podcast, and we discovered a lot of connections to the supernatural, whether Nessie herself is supernatural or not. But I'm kind of rolling with this idea that the Loch Ness monster is a ghost. It's like a ghost of a dinosaur.
I've heard that theory.
As ridiculous as it sounds, or as crazy it is, it's like, I just love that idea. Like, it would make so much sense that there's no physical evidence or anything left behind because she's a ghost.
Could be, who knows? Yeah, I don't know. I don't subscribe to any particular theory. At least with Bigfoot, my thing is I think it's an animal if it exists.
So you're kind of on the fence with Bigfoot even?
I would have to say I'd have to 100%. I'd have to see it to 100% say I believe in it. But I'm more open-minded towards it existing than not. I've actually met people outside of the documentary that have told me things, or I've met people that have claimed to have seen something who have gotten very almost, I like what I like to call the social stigma of Sasquatch, where they don't want to talk about it. They almost get embarrassed. And they get to the point where they said, I've said too much, I don't want to talk about this anymore, and they want to drop the subject, which makes me think they've seen something. And I've met a lot of people, and I wonder with the whole Bigfoot thing, if it's real. It's been going on for hundreds of years, and people around the world have seen something similar. You know, is everyone mass hallucinating the same thing? I know Chester Moore, who was in Southern Fried Bigfoot, said in one of his books once, you know, if everyone is mass hallucinating some ape-like creature from man's prehistoric past, why aren't they seeing other extinct creatures, or mass hallucinating other extinct prehistoric creatures like Irish elk or giant bears or what have you? So you know, I find that interesting. I think there's got to be something there, whether it is a real animal or some type of shared myth or what have you. So
yeah. And then in Southern Fried Bigfoot, you had quite a few people talking about how footprints and footprint casts are kind of the most substantial evidence that we've come across throughout all sort of investigations relating to any type of Bigfoot-like creature. But as mentioned in the documentary, they can be and often have been faked. So I was wondering if you think there's, like, what do you think is the most compelling evidence for something like that? Like, from what it sounds like to me, is you're the type of person who would think we need a body to have any sort of proof.
I think that's the only thing that's going to 100% prove it. If you had a body, whether living or dead. Of course, I say that my dog is beating on the door right now. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that would prove it. Again, it'd have to be a living specimen or a dead one. That's the only thing that's going to settle the issue once and for all. You know.
And your film it addresses the controversy between the pro kill or no kill kind of argument. And I don't know, this question for the filmmaker, where do you stand on that?
Well, my gut feeling is, you know, if it exists, you know, why kill it? You know, if they exist, they're pretty rare. I mean, if there are more of them, they'd be cited more. We'd have one in captivity or whatever. So my gut feeling said, you know, why kill it? Yes, it would take one to prove that, a body to prove it exists, but you know, I don't see the reason just kill something just for the sake of killing it. Say, hey, look, we got one, it exists.
Also, like kind of relating to the filmmaker in all three of us, makeup these days and props these days, like whether it was living or dead, there could be hundreds of people out there that are like, oh no, it's just fake. Like you think about all of the carcasses that have washed up somewhere or been found somewhere that have turned out to just be props. I've seen, you know, very compelling makeup in different monster movies and practical effects and things like that. Even if we were to have something alive in a cage or still out in the wild or being viewed somehow, people could be standing right in front of it and be like, oh, that's just makeup.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, people say that about the Minnesota Iceman all the time, right?
I know the guy, Steve Boosty, who owns the one of the prop replicas of the Minnesota Iceman.
Oh, no way.
At the Museum of the Weird. You guys ever take a trip down there? I highly recommend it.
Where's that at again? That's in
Austin, Texas on 6th Street.
That's right. Yeah, that's cool.
Very fun. If you guys like weird stuff, go to the Museum of the Weird. I cannot recommend it enough.
Right on. I'm hoping to get down to Texas one of these days. Good country music out there. I don't know if you're a fan of country music, but I am.
Not really, but I won't hold that against you.
So, okay. Maybe you've already kind of addressed this, but have you ever had any experiences with either the paranormal or with cryptids or anything like that?
Well, the only thing, this is interesting, and I've told a few people this story the last few years. When we were making Southern Fried Bigfoot, we went and shot with Chester Moore Jr. down in Southeast Texas. Me and Francisco Tristan, my cameraman, we did an interview with Chester. We got in late one Saturday night, did a long interview with Chester. And he said, hey, I've got an area I'm checking out. Do you guys want to go out with me? I've got night vision. We'd never used night vision before. We're like, yeah, sure, why not? So we go out with Chester to this area, and it was neat to try night vision for the first time. This is, I don't know, 18, 19 years ago. And way out in the boonies, out in the swamps down there, and it was really dark and it was really cold. I did warn Chester. I said, look, here's the deal. If you've got friends out here hiding in the woods in ape suits, I will run them over. We went in my car. Thankfully, he didn't have any friends hiding out there. No one got run over that night. But at one point, Chester says, hey, do you guys smell that? And this really musky smell kind of wafted over from the woods. I haven't been hunting since I was a little kid with my grandfather. I don't know what it was, but it was an animal smell. I can tell you that much. Nothing else happened. We ended up leaving. About 6 months later, my wife and I were at the Downton Sioux, and we were in the gorilla habitat they have there. And we didn't see any gorillas. I was disappointed. We're waiting around for 10 minutes. And just as we start to leave the gorilla habitat, the smell hits us. And it's very similar to the smell that I smelled down in Southeast Texas months earlier with Chester. And then a gorilla walks over in the enclosure and we could see it. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, were we close to something that night? Was that just some, maybe a feral hog we smelled that night? I don't know, but it fascinates me.
I'm going to share this piece of trivia that a good friend of mine told me once that I did not know about great apes, but gorillas, particularly gorillas, they can control their smell, I guess, their scent, by opening and closing their pores, like on command.
I've heard
so people think that can extend to Bigfoot as well, with people reporting such a strong smell and then it disappearing so quick.
Could be. Again, I don't know. It could
it's some
animal out there, but it could have been something else. I like kind of not knowing. It's kind of neat that there's that mystery there. Maybe we were close to something unknown. Maybe we weren't. I don't know, but it's neat to think about.
Right. Yeah, I know. Certainly, Alex Pedikov and I have been. Well, we think we've been close to things, and so there was something there. But was it a Sasquatch or was it something else? We don't know, right? And for me, it's a little frustrating being like, we'll never know, because there's just, you can't go back to that time and place, Okay.
So I want to know about this alien graveyard.
Yes. Sorry.
I've heard nothing about this. I don't have any previous knowledge. I didn't look it up before this interview today. I want to hear it all from you since you've been there.
Sure thing. Okay, and I'm going to try to give this to you guys to the best of my really bad recollection here, so bear with me. For the record, I really don't have much interest in UFO stories at all, but I do love local folklore and weird stories and things like that. whenever I travel, I'll go to a local bookstore and go to the regional section and try to find a book about what weird stuff happened, where there's a regional murder or monster story or ghost story or what have you. Anyway, there's a small town. Oh, it's to the west of Dallas and I think to the northeast of Fort Worth. Please don't quote me on that. Called Aurora, and I believe it was either the late 1800s or early 1900s, and it made the newspapers at the time. The story goes, some type of craft from another world was struck by lightning and crashed there, and the townspeople came and they found a dead alien in the wreckage, and they gave the alien a proper Christian burial in the graveyard, and the alien allegedly is buried in this cemetery. I'd heard about it for years. There was a movie made in the 80s called The Aurora Encounter. It was like a kids movie, basically, very low budget about it. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but I think 8-9 years ago, I was working on a documentary about the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination. And I went out near Aurora to interview the late Jim Marrs. Jim was a conspiracy theorist who had wrote the book that Oliver Stone based his movie JFK on. Crossfire, that was the name of his book. Jim also wrote about, what's interesting, Jim also was the reporter back in the 60s that reported on the Lake Worth monster that we have in Southern Fried Bigfoot. A lot of weird ties here. It gets kind of funny. So anyway, I contacted Jim and I interviewed Jim, and we talked about JFK, of course, because he was a big conspiracy theorist, of course. But my cameraman and I, as we drove out to Jim's place, which was way out in the boonies, we passed the sign for Aurora, and my cameraman, he goes, "Hey, isn't this the town where that dead alien's supposed to be buried?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." And so we interviewed Jim, got through all that. We started talking about weird stuff with Jim, because Jim had written books about, he believed the governments of the world were in league with sinister forces and aliens and things like that. He gave me a copy of his book, which oddly enough, I read on a flight to Washington, D.C. once. Weird story. But anyway, I digress. Going back, towards the end of the interview, we asked Jim's like, "Hey, is Aurora the town?" Because he was talking about aliens. "Is that where that spacecraft supposedly crashed with the dead alien?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, it is." And he's like, "My assistant has got to go there for an errand. She'll take you guys if you want to go." "Okay, sure. Let's go see the alleged alien graveyard." So she took us to this little town of Aurora, to the cemetery, and they have a plaque there in the cemetery. It says, allegedly an alien is buried here. And there was actually a guy at the cemetery that day leaving flowers for the alien.
Wow.
And if you look into it more, there's apparently a conspiracy that the alien's body was moved. I think in the 70s by, I think Jim told us, by other forces or something. I don't know. I don't remember. But there's a conspiracy theory that, some sinister government group moved the original body in the grave. I don't know that much about it. I've got a friend, Mitchell Whittington, who, again, Mitchell was in Southern Fried Bigfoot. He's a writer and folklorist. Mitchell lives in what's been called the most haunted house in Texas, the Grove, in Jefferson, Texas. He's a good friend of mine. He just wrote a book called Close Encounters of the Texas Kind about UFO sightings in Texas. And he has a chapter about the Aurora spacecraft and alleged alien burial. So he knows far more about this story than I do. I just, as said, I love local folklore and stories like that. So that's my very short, convoluted story about visiting the alleged alien graveyard.
Very cool.
That is cool. Have you ever made your way over to Bluff Creek?
No, I haven't. I've made it as far north in California to Eureka, and that was about it.
Ah, you were right there.
I know, I didn't have
Thank you.
time. That's just it. Sometimes when you're up there on a job, you don't have time to get to goof around. I did go to the Legend of Bigfoot gift shop, though. That's in, it's just south of Eureka. It's got the big wooden carved Bigfoot statue.
I've been there. I think Fortuna, or it's close to Fort. No,
That's it. That's
is
it.
it
Yeah.
Fortuna? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when I got there, it was closed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, lots of Bigfoot reports in that area. Something's going on.
It's gorgeous up there. The fog and the woods and the redwoods. It's really neat. But yeah, it's neat. I've been to parts of British Columbia as well for work, but I didn't see any Sasquatches, just bears.
Yeah. You ever been to Saskatchewan?
No, never have. Exactly.
Right on. Anywhere else in the UK you've been that's
kind of weird? Let's see. Yeah, my wife and I also went to Stonehenge. That's that trip that we went to Loch Ness. That was interesting. Again, I'm not one of these people that really, again, I keep an open mind about everything, but I will say there was a weird feeling in the air the day we were there. And you could kind of get an idea why so many people have been drawn to that area for so many hundreds of years. Lots of strange little birds called jackdaws were flying around making really weird sounds. And, I kept thinking, is one of those birds going to land and transform into a druid in front of us? Because it was such an odd day. But we found what was even stranger than Stonehenge itself was the Stonehenge gift shop, where they will sell you anything with Stonehenge on it, from golf balls to cake pans.
Wow.
Yeah. Neat place.
Golf balls.
Yeah, definitely worth going. Yes. Anything you want with Stonehenge, trust me, they have it and they will sell it to you. It's not a criticism. I think it's hilarious.
That's so cool. Yeah. Wow, man. We burned through some questions here. Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you a question. And considering that you name dropped Cannibal Holocaust earlier, I'm going to assume you're somewhat of a film buff.
Mostly trashy films, drive-in movies, things like that. So,
okay.
But yes.
Well, this question will be perfect for you. I try to ask this of every guest. But what is your top 5 favorite monsters? And this isn't, just cryptids or just movies or anything. This is just in general, in no particular order.
Top 5 monsters. Oh man. Well, Bigfoot number 1, probably my favorite. King Kong, definitely. Probably got to go for Godzilla. I did write the English language dub for Shin Godzilla, the last Japanese Godzilla film. So that's another favorite of mine.
Wow.
Yeah. If we could go on a quick tangent real quick, I saw that on your IMDb and I wanted to know exactly what that meant. Like, so you say you wrote the dub script. So what is that process? What is that process?
Well, it's the English language dub script. What happens is that I used to do a lot of work for Funimation Entertainment here in Dallas, and I did mostly animation, but I did some of their live action films as well. They had the rights to do the English dub for Shin Godzilla. So what happens is that they send me a time-coded version of the movie, a very rough Japanese to English translation that doesn't make sense. So you have to basically match all the word flaps. And it's not like the old 60s and 70s dub movies where nothing matches. I mean, this is meticulous. I had less than a month to basically write a 2-hour movie. So you have to basically rewrite the script from scratch to make sure you can't just do a direct translation, because things in Japanese won't make sense in English and vice versa. So you have to rewrite it so you stay true to the spirit of the story, but not to the letter of the word, basically. So you're acting on every single part. You're writing background lines. You're making sure everything matches flap-wise. Crazy way to make a living. But I did it to say I contributed in some small way to the cinematic legacy of everyone's favorite irradiated lizard. Is one of my proudest accomplishments in life.
That's a very interesting thing too, because here I am like, yeah, you just translate it. What more writing do you have to do? Just translate it. But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, crazy long days. I did 23 days. 18 of them were consecutive, usually starting at 6 in the morning and wrapping at 8 at night.
Wow.
Plus a month. It was hard, but I loved it.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's wow.
Oh, so wait, so Godzilla, probably, I guess, the Wolfman and the Creature from the Black Lagoon, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah, that's 5. That's good. Those are some good ones. Yeah. You worked on One Punch Man as well, huh?
No, I didn't work on One Punch.
No, not One Punch Man. What was the one I
One
saw?
Piece, pirate cartoon?
One Piece, yes. That's the one.
32 episodes of that back in the day.
Wow, so you wrote the actual episodes, or you were doing dubs again?
I wrote the English language translation scripts. Yeah.
Still, that's impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
So is that also what you do for all of the anime that's on your Internet Movie Database page?
I basically wrote the English language dub scripts, or the translation, or what do you call them? The reversions, I guess you'd say, where you do the same thing but on a much smaller scale than what I did with Godzilla.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah, we were looking at your page today. I was looking at you because I like to do a little bit of research on who it is we're interviewing, so I don't come in completely blind. And I was looking at your IMDb and I was like, is this the right person? This seems like a lot of anime.
A very schizophrenic career.
Just
True
funny,
crime and animation and all this other stuff. So it's kind of weird.
It was just funny scrolling down because I'm like anime,
Yeah.
Bigfoot documentary, anime.
An interesting life and career.
Any interest in making a sequel or a spiritual successor to Southern Fried Bigfoot?
Well, it's kind of funny you asked that. It almost became a cable series a few years ago. A network was
Really?
really interested, and this went on for about 6 months, back and forth. I was really excited. They were excited, or seemed to be excited. Going back and forth in negotiations, and I always kept asking very politely, "Okay, guys, where's the contract? Let me see the contract." And eventually, the network decided, instead of making Southern Fried Bigfoot into a series, to rip off another popular cryptid show that was a fake and scripted show. They made 2 ripoffs of it. These shows were quickly produced, quickly aired, and quickly canceled. So yeah, I've never been one for doing a sequel just to make a sequel. I thought the series idea would have worked a lot better. I've also been tied up with a lot of sizzle reels and pilots for potential cryptid shows over the years for networks that didn't get picked up for some reason or the other. So I would love to be involved in that field again. My heart's been broken a lot, and I've had some really good people involved with these projects. It's always a crapshoot with TV, dealing with networks and executives and such. Usually the person you're dealing with 1 month is replaced 2 months down the line. The person that replaces them has a totally new idea and agenda they want to, so it's really, really hard to, it's like lightning striking twice in the same place.
Now, we did talk a little bit ago about your dub scripts, all the work you do doing that, but you do also write your own creative content from scratch as well. I took a look at your social medias and saw that your horror comedy screenplay, Demonicon, is that how you say it? Is that the proper pronunciation?
Thank you. No one gets it right. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. But you wrote that with your brother Shane, and it's been like selected for a couple of indie film festivals, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been selected. It's won a few awards, actually. It won a few contests, which is nice. I'm just really hoping to either sell it or option it. We've come close a few times. Again, it's kind of like a crapshoot. It's like gambling. You never know if had people interested. And then COVID happened. And then, everyone, the financing kind of dropped out with people. So I would just love, this is one of my dreams. I'd love the option to sell the screenplay.
And how long ago did you write it?
I think we finished it about 2.5 years ago, and it's been in the contest circuit for about 1.5 years or 2 now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Can you give us like a log line? Obviously, you don't want to give away the whole plot or
no, sure.
Anything.
It's I'm trying to remember it. I used to have it memorized. It's about a bunch of mostly forgotten B and Z grade movie actors have to survive the night with an ancient evil is unleashed at a horror movie convention that's called Demonicon.
That sounds so fun. Kind of meta, but awesome.
Exactly. Lots of trashy toilet humor, which I take credit for. Lots of humor and lots of violence. So
wow.
No socially redeeming value whatsoever.
Nice. That sounds like fun.
It does.
I guess before we wrap up here, Sean, is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to bring up?
No, well, one thing that is going on that's really cool, I'm really excited about, is that I've really been thrilled over the years how many people have found Southern Fried Bigfoot. As I said, it was put together really with no money, whatever is in my pocket. Everyone in the crew had crazy life changes we could not expect. Either changed careers, bought houses. My original editor, right as we were about to start editing, he got offered a great job, but it was on an atoll in the South Pacific for 5 years. Which set us back. So you can't predict these things that happen when you're making an indie project, but really shocked and touched at all the people over the years that have, emailed me or written me or bought DVDs or, watched it on Amazon. We got 2 cable TV deals from it, first on the documentary channel, then on Destination America through Discovery. And just recently, Stephen Bissett, the famous horror comics artist who do Swamp Thing, contacted me, and I was shocked. He's a fan of the documentary. I'm like, wait, my no budget little Bigfoot movie? And he's gonna have a chapter about it in an upcoming volume of his Cryptid Cinema series. I think the same issue, it's got same volume, it's got Seth Breedlove and some follow-up on the Legend of Boggy Creek. So I'm just really stoked about that.
Yeah.
So it's be released sometime this year. I don't have a date yet.
Well, I think Southern Fried Bigfoot has definitely earned its place in the tomes of Bigfoot filmography. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, there's so much Bigfoot trash out there, and it's like it's just nice when something comes along and it has class, you know. Like,
You know, the funniest comment I ever got, someone said, some people get confused and think it's a cooking show. And someone once on Twitter said, hey, this is coming up on Destination America. Paula Deen has really gone crazy. That's a good one, I gotta admit. The other good comment I got once, someone told me, your actors were fantastic. They were so convincing. Where did you find them?
Oh
They thought I'd made a mockumentary. And I'm like, no, these are real people.
God, that's funny. Well, you know, since you were talking about the title just a second ago, I guess I wondered, but I never really asked, like, what is the point behind the title? Like, where does the term Southern Fried come from? Is it just a pun on, you know, Southern fried cuisine, or you know?
Well, kind of. There's always a term Southern Fried when you're talking about something in the South. Like, you know, that's a Southern Fried redneck movie. That's a Southern Fried vehicle. I didn't want to just call it Bigfoot of the South. What am I going to call it? And the name just popped up in my head. I said, okay, that's what I'm going to call it. And if someone sees it, say in a TV listing or a channel guide or a film festival program, they're going to say, whoa, what is this?
Yep.
And at least it would grab their attention.
Yep.
And I never thought about changing it. So I just kept it as that, and somehow it stuck.
And I think it sticks for a reason.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Sean, for appearing on the show. Thanks for talking. Oh, wait. Yes. I remember. It's the Twitter account, the Southern Fried Bigfoot Twitter account. Do you run that?
I do.
Oh, that's you. Okay, cool.
Many years. Like, I think I've had that account now for, God, what year is it? I think I've had it like 14, 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like still active.
Yeah. And get new followers every day from all over the world. I don't know who these people are, but hey, why not? And I just try to, I plug friends' projects and crazy stuff and, you know, weird Bigfoot and cryptid news and things like that. You'll never find anything serious. You'll never find politics or anything like that on it. It's just fun stuff, you know, having a bad day, check it out. There's always something weird or crazy or amusing on there.
Yeah. Did you have anything that your friends are making that you wanted to plug right now?
I'm trying to think. Well, Eli said he's going to Florida soon for a new project, which sounds really cool. My friend Mitchell Whittington's book, Close Encounters of the Texas Kind, is out. It's on Amazon right now. What else? My friend Lyle Blackburn's got a great hot sauce out right now, Monster Hot Sauce. It's got the biographic monster on it, which is wonderful. I am a hot sauce connoisseur, and it is a really, really good flavor to it.
All right.
Yeah, I've heard people say that is actually surprisingly really good.
It is. It is. I've had a lot of hot sauces that are like really hot and they just do it to basically burn your tongue off and there's no flavor. This has got more flavor than heat, but it still has a little bit of heat to it, but it's fantastic.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get some.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And finally, where can we find your film online?
Let's see. You can get it digitally on Amazon. Amazon recently, here's a funny story. Amazon recently stopped selling DVDs of a lot of indie films, including Southern Fried Bigfoot. So I started selling DVDs again via southernfriedbigfoot.com. Now, here's where it gets really funny. I've noticed recently, and this is the reason why I started selling these again, some really enterprising people on both eBay and Amazon have been claiming that it's very rare. And have been selling copies for $50, which is like, wow, really? It's not. You can get them for like, I think with postage for $15 from us. You know, and my wife sells them on eBay too, so you can get them pretty cheap and official, never open shrink wrap copy. As opposed to some of these used ones they're selling for $50. Really, I just it made me laugh. I'm like, man, I wish I could get that much for a DVD, but you know, hey.
That's so crappy too. Like, why do you do that?
Well, part of me is, I'm like, this is great. If somebody really wants to pay that money, go for it, but you're getting ripped off. Come on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And it's just a regular DVD. It's not even a Blu-ray or a 4K or anything. You want to pay $50 for it, really? Come on.
Oh, here's just the nerd in me. Would you ever consider a Blu-ray release of Southern Fried Bigfoot, or?
Possibly. You know, I'd have to think about it. I mean, it would look better if it came made. I think it's just it was done so long ago. You know, it hasn't really occurred to me. There had to be a need for it, I think. I just don't know if there is anymore. I'm a big physical media aficionado myself. Things go on and off of streaming so much. If there's something I like, I'm going to buy a physical copy of it just because I know how this stuff works. But, it just depends, maybe.
Okay. I don't know. I am a physical media guy myself, and I'm also a stickler for like what's the highest quality I can get. If there's a 4K out there, I'm gonna get it. Like
Me too.
So when I see a movie like Southern Fried Bigfoot, I'm like wondering where's the Blu-ray at.
Yeah. It's actually, I think it was released even before Blu-rays became pretty common.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It was all shot, I believe, on mini DV, so I'm not even sure how great it could look at this point. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe
that was my first camera. Actually, it was a mini DV camera.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's wild.
Cameras, but it's amazing how much technology has changed over the years.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Sean, for being on the show. You've been a lot of fun to have on, and I don't know, maybe we'll have you on again someday. I don't know.
Love to. Appreciate you guys having me, and good luck with your projects. Really love the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, you guys take care. Be safe.
You too.
All right. See ya.
Happy New Year.
You too. Happy New Year.
We want to thank you guys for listening to Cryptid Campfire. We really appreciate it, and we'd appreciate it even more if you left us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps us rank, and more people can find us and join the campfire. If you haven't yet, consider following us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. That's at Cryptid Campfire on all three. Be sure to check out our website, cryptidcampfire.com, where you can find campfire t-shirts and other merch, as well as our weekly blog, expanding upon what we talk about in the episodes. If you've done all that, consider subscribing to our Patreon page. $5 a month gets you access to exclusive episodes and wallpapers that haven't been released anywhere else. For the price of a coffee, you will be directly helping us make this show the best it can be. If you want to follow our hosts, you can find their personal profiles on Instagram at Jasmine May With, that's JasmineMaewith, at Alex Daikaiju, that's at AlexDaikaiju, and at the Eli Watson. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.